What's poppin' YouTube? Welcome back to the channel and to part 2 of proof that Vasto Lorde Ichigo is casually a planet buster. I'm assuming you clicked on this video because you've already seen part 1, so draw on your horn of salvation and let's get straight to the point. For any whom have any contention with the power gaps I stated between the top 10 of Rankar, I'll reiterate that even when using only a 10 times multiplier between each Espada base to resurrection, it still makes absolutely no logical, narrative, and or thematic sense, and almost immediately falls apart under scrutiny according to the blatant character motivations stated and or illustrated by Kubo and the multiple in-universe sources. Even if your argument was that the top 3 Espada do not fall under this rule because Shunsui couldn't tell which one of the 3 was stronger. 1. Neither of the top 3 Espada were fighting seriously at the time this statement was made. 2. Kyoraku is very literally hundreds of years ahead of Bankai Toshiro in power. 3. Bankai Toshiro still needed the help of a holified captain level Shinigami just to simply stalemate Harubel. 4. Shaolin Soifon would be a gender-bent He-Man villain right the fuck now if not for the Kido Kami. 5. Why though? Why did Kubo weave in every other Rankar resurrection, full release, holification, etc. in orders of magnitude just to stop here, not to mention the blatant logic and the scale applying to every other member of the Espada? Why? 6. Not to be confused with Grimjaw the Goat, base Ulquiorra would still be 100,000 times more powerful than Aranero either way. Apropos, Ulquiorra in Segunda Etapa arguably only 10 times stronger than his first release, which is inarguably 10 times stronger than his base, had his Serra Oscarus, which has a 10 times multiplier, negated by Vasto Lorde Ichigo's standard Serro, which means at bare minimum, Vasto Lorde Ichigo had to be 10 times stronger than Segunda Etapa Ulquiorra, with at best less than half of his overall strength. Even more daunting than that, after having his Serra Oscarus negated twice by Ichigo, he pulled out Alonzo, which was so powerful he didn't want to fire one at close range, having fired several Serra Oscarus at point blank range, mind you.
Don't move. Stay right where you are. If possible, I prefer not to unleash this at close range.
I think you know where I'm going with this. Logically, narratively, thematically speaking, and demonstratively, the Lanza is 100 to 1,000 times more powerful than the Serra Oscarus. No? Consider then that the Lanza was thrown at least 2,000 times the distance of Las Noches. Ulquiorra's Lanza is confirmed to travel at light speed and took at least 5 full seconds to make impact with the sands, i.e. at bare minimum it traveled 1.5 million kilometers, and still managed a mushroom cloud that dwarfed the fortress in height, as well as a sand and pyroclasm, the impact of which was heavily reduced by the infinite sands, still managing to wash up and recede over Las Noches like a tide from several states if not entire continental distances away. And Ulquiorra spammed them like they were nothing. He used 4 of them in the same fight and even produced one whilst near death. The point that I'm trying to illustrate is that a single one of those was a greater display of destructive power than either of the 4 higher ranked Espada ever exhibited in the series, one of which was on his deathbed. It would not be hyperbole to say that Segunda Etapa Ulquiorra's maximum area of destructive power is the result of at least a 1,000 times multiplier, i.e. equal to or superior to a bloodlusted Coyote Stark resurrection. And Ichigo nulled his Relampago barehanded without taking any damage at all, which, according to Newton's third law, means Vasto Lorde Ichigo must be equally able to output at least that much destructive force in turn. However, as I'll continually demonstrate, as well as the cheek clapping Ichigo served, he was logically, narratively, and thematically at least 100 to 1,000 times more powerful than Segunda Etapa Ulquiorra's maximum area of destructive power, whilst heavily fatigued, mind you. To summarize, even when using the smallest calc for the exterior of Las Noches, base Ulquiorra is able to wipe out an area in excess of 100,000 times that, or 49 billion square kilometers. The Earth itself is only 510 million square kilometers for comparison, meaning in base alone, Ulquiorra could planet wipe us nearly 100 times over. But you guys didn't click on this video for planet wiping, so let's talk TNT. Okay, so at bare minimum, it would take 200 teratons of TNT to destroy a large country, i.e. Araniero's maximum DC according to even the most conservative fortress calendar. FYI, I categorize Las Noches as large country because its most lowball total area is about the size of Spain, which is ranked 52 out of 232 countries. Apropos, base Ulquiorra alone has a maximum DC of 20 million teratons, or 20,000 petatons of TNT. Meanwhile, only 4 petatons are required to achieve large continental devastation. Add a 10 times multiplier for his resurrection, and his destructive capabilities leap to 200,000 petatons. And, while I've consistently demonstrated that Segunda Etapa is at least a 100 times multiplier, for the sake of ending this argument alone, we'll lowball it to only 10, i.e. 2 million petatons. His Serra Osculus tops off at another 10 times, and I'll even say just a 10 times multiplier for his Lanza, i.e. 200 million petatons of TNT. Finally, we have a heavily fatigued Vasto Lorde Ichigo, who tanked that Lanza with his base Serra as well as barehanded, making him bare minimum 10 times more powerful than it, or 2 billion petatons. For further comparison, it only takes around 53 million petatons of TNT to destroy the Earth. Furthermore, every Serra in all of Clorox has been shown to not simply level targets of hollows, but vaporize them entirely. This would cause a Gran Rey Serra alone to require enough explosive power to wipe out the face of the planet, let alone multiply the destructive yield of Vasto Lorde Ichigo by several orders of magnitude, easily placing him at Starbuster levels. And before y'all rip out my heart and organs, amputate my arms and legs, and sell them to a black deaf-mute Quincy baby in the comments section, allow me to address my fourth and final tenet. Prior to his Grimjaw battle Zenkai boost, Bankai Holification Ichigo tanked a Gran Rey Serra with his spiritual pressure alone. It takes less than 200 fighter-tier Soul Reapers, like people that Rangiku could shit on during an 8-month lockdown with no toilet paper, to destroy the entire Valley of Screams dimension. Soul Society arc Shikai Ichigo blocked the Sokyo blade, which had a DC of 36 million Zanpakuto. Rangiku, with less than a fraction of that same Ichigo's power, had a spiritual pressure so high she needed to wear a 4/5 power limiter in order to not affect the world of the living. This same Rangiku would get washed and folded by Renji from the same arc, who is hundreds if not hundreds of thousands of times weaker than pre-Vasto Lorde Bankai Holification Ichigo. For the mangaka to directly state and or demonstrate several times that just proximity to a large enough spiritual pressure can threaten the world of the living, only to have you ignore it, means only one thing. Tite Kubo personally wants you to drink bleach. But what is the world of the living? The easy answer would be Earth, right? Sounds simple enough at first glance until you realize that the official data book suggests or flat out state that the world of the living is relative in size to the Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, and even hell by extension. The biggest issue with the current level of cognitive dissonance appears once we see Kaname looking up at the night sky, which is filled to brim with stars. Add to that creatures that come from separate realms or dimensions within Soul Society, such as Komamura, and we're dealing with either a stellar macrocosm or a full-on galactic to universal scale. Consider that while moving at light speed, if not FTL, end of series Ichigo took over 9 hours to travel from the Soul Palace to the Serate. With light taking a mere 1.3 seconds to travel from the Earth to the Moon, this means that Ichigo traveled the distance of the Earth to the Moon more than 30,000 times, or over twice the distance from Earth to Pluto. And that's only if you consider that Ichigo was only moving at the speed of light, instead of 322 million times faster, which would make the distance between the Soul Palace and Serate over 322 million times greater. Point being that a one-armed, half-power Yamamoto, while heavily suppressing his Bankai, still threatened to destroy that entire galactic macrocosm. The Hellverse movie supplements this feat with Ichigo vaporizing several levels of hell in his Vasto Lorde form, as well as actually cutting the chains of hell themselves. Yamamoto, who wielded the most powerful Zanpakuto ever, couldn't cut those chains, as evidenced by him saying it shouldn't have been possible for Ichigo to have done it. Add to that the trillions of souls within his Bankai, and the 108 billion souls from Earth's history, and hell would have to be at least as big as Soul Society to accommodate all of its dead as well as our own, let alone the future souls from all of them. The final smoking gun, however, comes from the Mass Data book, where it describes the sand of Hueco Mundo as endless. On the one hand, you're welcome to take that as hyperbole, insinuating that it is only equally as big as the other lowball solar system-sized realms, i.e. 1,500 stars bare minimum. Or you can take it, all the canonical evidence I've submitted, and mook it as a sign that Soul Society, Hell, the Valley of Screams, and Hueco Mundo are all relative to the living universe. Either way, Vasto Lorde Ichigo is casually a planet buster. Anyways, man, thanks for checking out another video. I fucks with you.
Then we'll fox with each other.
Hit that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell so we can discuss big facts and who's big matter but heard in the comments for the first hour. Oh yeah, and don't forget to hit that dislike button if you a bitch.